people with green bubbles tend to get excommunicated from group chats because they have the green bubble. And so that's why that's one of the driving factors why so many kids want iPhone today.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. So many guests of who I have on this podcast have found their way to becoming digital wellness experts on one of two paths. Typically, they're either parents who recognized a problem slash became accidental activists, or researchers who are experts on human development and realized early on that technology is kind of hijacking this human experience. And so they're studying it further. But today, my guest is neither. He is an expert in talking to parents about tech support because he has literally grown up in this digital age. Today, he's going to share info, tips, and provide tech support for all of us who are trying to figure it out. Welcome to Healthy Screen Habits, Jack Hughes.
Hello, thank you for having me on today.
Oh, I'm thrilled. Jack, if you're comfortable now, can you share your background for reference? Maybe like the year you graduated high school, what your relationship was with tech growing up?
Okay, so grew up with technology. One of my earliest memories is getting an iPad for Christmas as a kid. At first, I didn't know the password, so my parents would open it up. I'd have like 15 minutes a day to play Minecraft or whatever it was. And then I later got, I believe it was an iPod or maybe it was a phone without a phone number, something like that. And my parents put on parental controls. I think they put on some third-party application. This is before screen time. And they wanted to keep me off, the internet. They wanted to keep me off social media. They didn't want me getting games. But me and my older brother at the time, we were very resourceful, and we would spend hours trying to figure out little loopholes, ways to get around the parental controls, and we eventually would learn a few of these exploits, and we would use certain backdoors to get on the internet, certain ways to get apps on our phones that we weren't supposed to have, like games. And then we would always sneak, YouTube till like 2 a.m. Or we would take my mom's computer and use that. Just a lot of times of me getting around parental controls. And so later on, eventually, 3, 4 years down the line, I get caught as, you know, kids will. And then my dad had an idea. I was around 17 and a half around the time, finishing up my senior year of high school. And my dad had the idea because I've been looking to start a business. And that is because I know all those back doors, because I have so much experience with parental controls. And I've also helped my parents with my younger siblings. I have a bunch of siblings. The oldest of those younger set of siblings would be 10. Then I have a 8-year-old sister and a 7-year-old brother. And I've helped my parents with their parental controls. And so my dad had an idea if I started a business and how I could educate parents on how to use parental controls because I know all those loopholes, because I know all the exploits that kids use, that I used as a kid, that I can help educate other parents on how to prevent those and how to, protect their kids online. So that was my mission.
Mm-hmm. So as you're explaining to yourself, I just kind of had this vision of you being like digital Robin Hood.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, and in my mind, you were the animated Robin Hood, not the Errol
The
Flynn
fox.
Robin Hood. Exactly.
Yeah, almost like the bad guy who became the cop.
Right. I know exactly. Or your expertise comes from your background.
Yeah.
So, if you're comfortable, can you share the year that you graduated high school, just so people recognize the current age that you're at?
Yeah, that would be year of 2023 to 2024 is my graduation year. So
Yeah. So I'm just I'm emphasizing that so that people recognize the relevance of what you're talking about.
Hmm.
For those of us who currently have kids in high school and all of the things, I feel like you have the service you provide is inherently valuable. But I mean, your finger on the pulse of having just been living, this
Hmm.
this life is so, so valuable and important.
Yeah, in terms of parental controls, I like to say the prisoner knows more about the prison than the prison warden, in a sense.
So, one of the platforms that you've used to help parents is YouTube, and you have all these little great short videos, super easy to follow short videos where you explain potential problem areas for parents that they may not even realize are potential, danger zones. And we think often that by keeping our kids off of social media, we have our bases covered. And but on one of your videos, you kind of go into the pitfalls of group chats. And can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so a lot of times group chats or so many people on them, it kind of gets chaotic. A big point I touched on in that video was FOMO, which is fear of missing out. Just like, 30 minutes ago, I had all my friends on a group chat and they were talking and I couldn't do my work. I couldn't prepare for this interview because, I had FOMO. And then another point was when it comes to texting, I think it's like only 9% of what we communicate is verbal and the rest is tone, inflection, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And texting just cuts all that out. And texting makes it easy to be super confident because when I'm texting someone, I can be confident. Like for example, whenever I would be texting a girl, it's super easy to ask a girl out over text because you can plan it out, you could say the perfect words, and it's not scary. But in person, you may see the girl in person and you may freeze up, and it creates like a false sense of confidence, and it's all virtual and fake, and
Yeah.
it's not right. I'd rather it's much healthier and better to be in person and to have a full group like that. You develop your
Yeah.
social skills a lot better.
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody can relate to that at this point. Anybody who my default to dealing with a lot of things, be it healthy or not, is through humor. And humor on text is really hard. And
Hmm.
I have found myself coming across as being incredibly offensive
Yeah.
sometimes. I just need to just keep it straight and dial it back. But unfortunately, that's only come from, sticking my foot in my mouth several times. The other thing that I don't know that everybody realizes about the group chat situation is it's kind of a very common area for, let's say, salacious content to get shared.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's what, people think, oh, they're not on social media, so that's not an issue. But be aware that, photos, videos, etc., can be shared on group chat. And do you want to talk just for a second about the whole, iPhone versus Android
Oh
group
yeah.
thing?
Yeah. So if you have an Android, you're going to get the cursed green bubble. And photos are a lot lower quality with the green bubbles. You have a lot of less features. So people with green bubbles tend to get excommunicated from group chats because they have the green bubble. And so that's why it's like that's one of the driving factors why so many kids want iPhone today or want iPhones today. I think it's like 80% of all teenagers have iPhones. Um, and you were saying earlier about those salacious texts. Once you send that on a group chat, it's not like saying something in person. Once you say that on a group chat, it's there forever. I mean, it's never
Mhm.
going to go away. I mean, how many times do we hear about, or politicians or business people say something and it's out there forever?
For
You're always
sure.
part of it.
For sure. No, careers have been ruined over images sent. Um, so the other thing that I am remarkably uninformed on, which is not saying much. I'm remarkably uninformed on a whole lot of stuff. But let's talk about VPNs. Like, what are they? How are kids using them to get around controls? Can you just kind of break it down for us?
Yeah, so a VPN stands for a virtual private network, and essentially is it's like an extra server your phone goes before going to the internet. So let's say I want to look up cat videos on a phone without a VPN. It's their phone is going to go to the website with the cat videos directly. So it's going to go from your phone to the website. A VPN is like a little middleman. So the phone will go to the VPN and then the VPN goes to the cat videos. And so that has some benefits. Some of the benefits are it's more secure. Let's say there's a hacker. Let's say the cat videos is like a hack thing, right? And it wants to get your information. It can't get your phone's information because it's actually being searched up by the VPN, and the VPN is just giving the information. But that can be negative or that could be bad in terms of parental controls, because sometimes, depending on what filter or what type of parental controls you're using, you can use VPNs to get around filters. A lot of parental controls will use like a middleman to track what websites you're going. If you're using a VPN, it can kind of get around that. And let's say you have a filter on that blocks pornography or something. A VPN could potentially get around that. And it depends on what filter you have and what VPN you're using.
Yeah. And how easy is it to get a VPN?
Pretty easy. It's just
Like, is that
pretty much an
something that
app
you
you
can just,
download.
oh, okay. It's an app,
Yeah,
or like, do you just YouTube it, like how to set it up?
yeah,
And
yeah. Computer, you don't need an app, I believe. An iPhone, you just download an app, and it takes like, I could probably do it in 5 minutes. Well, most of them cost some money, so but it's like $3 a month, so it's really cheap.
well, when we come back, let's talk more about what parents can do if they want a real tech back in, but they're kind of unsure on how to start it. Do you know what's happening during your child's online exchanges? As well intentioned as we are, often reading every text message, post, and email is just not realistic. This is where Bark comes in to help. Founded in 2015, Bark Technologies provides a parental control app that monitors and alerts parents to online threats. Bark was created for parents by parents to offer a better, easier, and more effective way to keep children safe online. Bark monitors posts and messagings for things like signs of bullying and communication with dangerous strangers. Bark's algorithms analyze all activity and issue parents notifications via their chosen communication method. Gain peace of mind and get 10% off of Bark service for life by using the Healthy Screen Habits link. Go to our website at healthyscreenhabits.org, click on the Tools button in the drop-down menu, and look for products we endorse to find Bark. It will be the easiest click you make all day. Peace of mind is just a bark away. I'm speaking with Jack Hughes, a Gen Zer who is helping parents with his business, Parent Tech Support. The link is absolutely going to be in these show notes, so stick around to figure out how to get to that. Jack, one of the things I really like about Parent Tech Support is you give people actionable tips and tell them exactly how to do things like layer parental controls. Can you kind of get into that?
Yeah, so this is one of the best strategies that I've learned. I call it layering. You're essentially layering different parental controls on top of each other. So the first layer is what I call in-app controls. So certain apps like TikTok, like Roblox, will have parental controls baked into the app itself that you can set up. So you set up that layer, and then you set up a second layer, which is device parental controls. So every device, like an iPhone, like Android, will have parental controls baked into the phone. You also then set those up. So that would be the second layer, and then you set up third-party parental controls. And so you get like Bark, you get Quizno, third-party parental controls, and that's another extra layer of security. And then you can go on to Wi-Fi controls, so Wi-Fi filters, setting up a filter on your Wi-Fi network itself. And then let's say your child goes to goes abroad and you want to set up parental controls on their cellular device or their cellular provider. So that's an extra layer. So which is really nice about these layers is, let's say they find a way around one control, they find a way around the third party parental controls. You'll still have two other layers there to meet them to block them. So it's like you have a diamond and you put it in a safe, and then you put that safe in a bank vault, and then you put a security team around that bank vault. So it's just extra layers upon layers, and they're not just adding. They're not just It's not just one plus one is two. They're compounding essentially. So they're getting more and more secure, and so it's a big strategy. I really encourage parents to use layering.
Yeah, yeah. Um, for my own understanding, when you're talking about doing the Wi-Fi controls, would that be something like a Griffin router? Is
Yeah.
that
So that
okay?
Yeah, most routers will have controls, just at least a super basic form of controls you can set up. But the Griffin router is a great, or the Bark home
Mhm,
Wi-Fi, because that's
mhm.
made for parental
Yeah.
controls.
Okay.
You can also use a service called OpenDNS, which I also really like. They're completely free, and they're really one of the best internet filters I've ever seen. I highly recommend them as well.
Wow, that's a great tip. Thank you. I've never even heard of them, and I'm in this zone. So, can you lock parental controls? I know I just recently spoke with another guest who spoke about how some parental controls are easy to get around by changing time zones,
Hmm.
or just simply turning things off and then reinstalling. So can you lock certain parental controls?
Yeah, so like as you're saying, the time zones part. I used to do that growing up when my parents had a service called Kids Lock on my phone. That was a third party controls. And I did it all the time. It was a great strategy to get around controls. Or I would turn off the Wi-Fi and I would have unlimited screen time. Um, but if you set them up correctly, like if you set up in a way where it locks down so you can't delete the app. So a
Mhm.
lot of times kids will just delete the parental control apps, and so it would unlock the phone. But on the parental controls, if you lock down their ability to not delete apps, and they can never delete the app in the first place.
Mm.
So there are ways you can lock down. There are strategies you can use. Um, Screen time is which is Apple's built-in controls. I use screen time a lot just because everyone has an iPhone these days, and it's pretty intuitive. Not intuitive, but it's easy for me to explain because I've used it a lot.
Okay, so let
And
me ask you, because we're an Apple family, and one of the things that I have found in using screen time, and even with myself, like I install controls on myself because I will
mhm,
find, oh my God, Jack, the freaking Instagram, right? I
yeah,
mean, the time blindness
it's
is
so addictive.
real. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, I know this stuff, right? But so I will set up time controls for myself, but it seems like with updates, it gets cleared.
Yeah, a lot of times
So
it will.
what do you, that's part of why I'm asking if you can lock it down, because like I don't know how to do that, because unfortunately I figure out that my controls have been undone by the
Yeah.
fact that, oh, it's an hour later, not the 30
Hmm.
minute the 30-minute time set that I had.
Yeah, that's actually a screen time bug I believe Apple knows about,
Yeah.
and it's been there for like 3 or 4 years and we've never fixed it. Or maybe they've said they fixed it, but it's still there.
Hmm.
That's one of the reasons why I recommend that parents, generally always check through their screen time, always look at their parental controls, do a quick 10-minute look at it, because that happens a lot and it's always kind of scary, and that happened to me when I was growing up, and that was the best thing ever because I had no parental controls.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like always for me, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, for me, it's like, oh, I must be really relaxed today. I'm just feeling like time is stretching out. And then it's like, oh no, actually, time is going by. You're just getting sucked into,
Yeah. And
you
a lot of
know?
parents won't add a screen time pin to their child's. So when they first set up screen time, they set it all up, but they don't ever set a pin because like Apple doesn't make it clear that you need to set up a password to block them. So
Oh,
for like
got
years, my
you.
parents thought they had screen time on my phone, but I could always just ignore the limit they put in.
Oh,
And once they
got
put that
you.
pin in, and the other thing was they put that pin in, but they didn't make it secure and they never changed it.
Oh.
And so it was funny enough, it was the same code that we used for the garage door. So it was
Talk
pretty
about
easy to
talk
guess.
about the literal keys to the kingdom. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're like, I got it all.
Yeah, and it's
Oh,
I also highly recommend that parents change that like once a month because
oh,
kids are resourceful. I mean, I would even set up
yeah.
cameras looking down when I would ask them to put it in so that I could get the code. It was like
You are good, Jack.
it
You
was
are
like Mission Impossible.
next level. I can understand why your dad was like, you need to use your skills for good, son. Okay. So what, in your estimation, what do you think are the most problematic websites for kids today?
Okay, so I mean, right off the bat, you have all those porn websites that
Sure.
walk kids into all that. That's goes without saying.
Hmm.
Um, you have social medias, so you have Instagram. Um, Instagram will create a lot of body image issues, a lot of comparisons, a lot of unhealthy comparisons. Just, I myself will compare myself to super jacked guys who look absolutely beautiful, but let's be honest, they're all on steroids and they all doing drugs or photoshopping their looks. So this it's an unhealthy, stupid comparison. Or you have apps like TikTok, you have apps like YouTube Shorts, especially where it ruins your attention span. You can't focus anymore. Um, I mean, it ruins your dopamine. I'm sure you know a lot about dopamine. Everyone talks about dopamine nowadays, but
Yeah, but go
it's a real
ahead. It's all
problem.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a big one that goes under the radar a lot would be forums. So you have
Hmm.
Reddit, you have Discord. I don't know if Discord would be a forum. It's something like that. But Reddit and Discord, there's a lot of shady stuff on those sites that no
Hmm.
one really talks about. Or Quora, I believe is another one.
Hmm.
Lots of pornography on those sites that
Lots of
and they're on the App
pornography.
Store.
Yeah, and lots of radicalization
Yeah,
of,
lots of that.
any direction. I
Yeah,
mean,
you could find stuff like the Holocaust deniers or other moon.
flat earthers.
Yeah, I mean and that's how it started, right? I
Yeah.
think it was on Reddit or something like that.
Yeah. 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 So it's not even necessarily websites that you're finding problematic, it's the apps that
Yeah,
you're.
or I was talking to my brother the other day and Tumblr. Did you know Tumblr is a massive spot where people sell drugs and people buy drugs off of? It's not just Tumblr. You can get drugs off Instagram. You can get
Oh,
off, like
Snapchat is
Marketplace. Yeah,
Snapchat's an absolute hub. Yeah, and we have, sadly, horrifically, I have interviewed many parents who have lost children due to fentanyl laced drugs bought on Snapchat. They'll start on a different platform and then they'll say they'll move them to Snapchat because
because
of the
it's
disappearance.
untraceable. Because
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you think about the current recommendations from our former Surgeon General, Dr. Morthy, and the adoption by Australia that social media should be, you know, not allowed for
16.
kids? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's great. I think 16 is a great age. Um, I almost all my videos when I talk about social media, I recommend 16, and even then, you should know what they're doing on social media. I
yeah,
mean, maybe even older. Maybe it's a special, like maybe 18 for Snapchat, as you were saying.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Oh, and just so you know, so that you know of this resource that we have a four-part stepping into social media. So it's not like at 16 you don't toss your kids the keys to the car and say, "Okay, see ya."
yeah, exactly.
There's training that happens.
Yeah,
There's a walk-in approach where we have kids like practice posting on your account and like look at things posted together and point out.
build up the resistance to
Yeah.
like TikTok or something because if you just it's like dropped into the ocean. You can't even swim.
Totally, totally. And the ocean is, I
Deep.
mean, it's deep and it's designed to pull you under. I
Yeah.
mean, it is designed by some of the best minds of our time to pull you under. So we're getting very dark, Jack. Let's take a break.
At what age should I give my child a smartphone? How much screen time should I allow each day? What are the best filters to use on my family's devices? Sound familiar? These questions and more are answered at the Healthy Screen Habits website. We've curated the best articles, books, videos, and many other resources to help you figure out how you want to use technology in your life. Click on the awareness section to learn about the issues and dangers surrounding screen use. Then click on the Tools page to download printables you can use with your family today, including the Healthy Screen Habits Family Technology Plan. Visit our website at www.healthyscreenhabits.org for the resources and tools you need to get started.
I'm speaking with Jack Hughes. He's the president of Parent Tech Support, an organization whose mission is to help parents protect their kids online. So, Parent Tech Support does that by providing free, straightforward content that educates parents. I've learned much by watching his videos, and he also has a personal connection by helping parents set up parental controls and providing support. I think everyone would find you incredibly relatable, Jack. So, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask each guest for a healthy screen habit. And this is going to be a tip or takeaway that listeners can put into practice in their own home. So, what's yours?
I would say one of my most important tips after, especially after you've set up parental controls, is to generally, let's say maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a month, to look through your child's screen time, to look through what they're doing on their phone, to kind of just a general 10-minute glance through maybe their social media accounts, a general sense of knowing what they're doing on their phone. A lot of times kids will, hide stuff like that. It's a just a general habit of just glancing through their phone that will do miracles. That's one of the ways you can spot if they're getting around parental controls. I know my parents, they never looked through my phone. They never looked at my screen time. If they would have looked at my screen time, they would have seen that I spent, 5 hours a day on a workout tracking app. And the reason why I spent 5 hours a day on a workout tracking app was because I was using that app to get around parental controls, to get on the web, to get on Google, essentially.
Oh,
So there's no reason why someone should be on a workout tracking app, 5 hours a day, 7 days a week.
they were probably thinking, wow, he's so healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to circle back a little bit. So recognizing that every family is different, there's no cookie cutter approach. Do you to parenting? I should add. Do you have an age that you think parents should stop using parental controls?
I'd say, when they're an adult, when they go to college, at that point, you're not really their parent.
Yeah.
Just when you're not their parent anymore, I should say. That could be 18 or 19 when they leave the house. I think, when you stop being the parent, I think you always should have some level of parental controls. Um, I don't have parental controls on my phone anymore, but my parents don't really have that degree of authority over me anymore. If that makes sense.
Right, right, right. So,
So yeah, I'd say 18 is a good age.
right, yeah. Yeah, and and it's, you know, there's 18-year-olds and there's 18-year-olds. It's just like I said, there's no cookie cutter approach to this
Yeah,
whole thing. It's
yeah.
just this is a
Or there
general
are some 16-year-olds who are as mature as an average
totally.
20-year-old, or vice versa.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. Within the same family. you
Hmm.
know. Yeah. So as always, you can find a complete transcript of this show as well as a link to parent tech support by visiting the show notes for this episode. You do this by going to healthyscreenhabits.org, click the podcast button, and scroll to find this episode. Jack, thank you so much for being here today and for using your powers for good.
Yeah, you should see all my my TikTok and Instagram comments. They're all kids, 16-year-olds calling me snitch and wise bro snitch, and all my comments are like that. It's
Why
fun.
is I'm sure it's not bro. I'm sure it's bruh.
Yeah, it's
Right? Okay. Well, thank you, Jack. From all of the parents, thank you.
yeah, thanks for having me on.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.